Today I'm going to show you how to use Google Forms. There are two ways you can get to Google Forms. One is from the waffle up here. You can click on it and scroll down to Forms, or you can come to the New button and you can come to Forms here. If you do not see Forms, you can open the More tab and that should give you the forms right at the top. So let's go ahead and create a new Google form. You always start with a blank form. You can title it whatever you want, and I'm going to just make mine New Form. And then a little pro tip here, if you want the title of your form to be the same as what you put here, you just click in that box and it'll put the name right there for you. It defaults to a multiple choice question, but you have several options. You can do a short answer, a paragraph, multiple choice, check boxes, a drop down, a file upload, linear scale, multiple choice grid, checkbox grid. These take a little more challenge to put them together, and you can add date and time. You might think, why would I add date or time? But I'm going to show you that. We're going to start right here with date. So it says the date, month, day, and year, because the question is, what day is today? This is if you want to be sure that your student or someone that you're using this for as a poll puts in the actual date. You're going to get a timestamp of when it's submitted, but this also gives you that added feature of knowing the date and being able to sort by the date. So if you want it required, this little slider button will require it. We can go more deeply into forms, and I could show you some other things, including descriptions and time. Maybe I want to add the time too. What day is today? And you could add the whole thing. This little button duplicates the same question over again, should you want it, or you can delete. To add a new question, you simply click on the plus sign. And then you can choose the question again from here. What is the best day of the week? And look at that. It suggested using artificial intelligence whether you should add all or just a few days. The nice thing about this is you don't have to type all of those things in. And then, of course, you can X out any of the ones that you wanted to here. If I chose to do a different type of question, maybe I want checkboxes. Checkboxes mean I can choose more than one. From here, you can then also choose a drop-down menu. So when that is shown, you're going to see each of these as a drop-down. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So now here is your drop-down, and you can choose from there. And when I want to go back to edit, I use this little pencil down at the bottom right corner. So those are the three basic top ones. Obviously, short answer and paragraph are self-explanatory. Let's now add a linear scale. Please use linear scales carefully, because a 1 to 5, what I might think is a 5 might be your 3. It just depends on our own perception. So just be careful with this and consider labeling such as I don't know or I could teach this. And really, when you give a 5-point scale, there's so many numbers in between that causes it to be a little bit of an issue. So sometimes I like to do a 1 to 3, and then either you don't know or you know enough, or you could teach it. Maybe even a 4-point scale here. Okay, and again, we go back to whether we need required or don't need required. The multiple choice grid gives us some different options. And these options allow you to do rows and columns. So you sort of have to think about what the row is. And rows, of course, are side to side, and columns are up and down. So let's say we want amount due I'm just going to use something I can think of off the top of my head here. Date paid and paid how. And over here, I'm going to say January, February, March. And sometimes it will even give you the AI will kick in and it will want to autofill it for you and so forth. So now let's look and see what this looks like. So you notice this says require a response in each row. If I'm tracking amounts due or when things are paid or paid how, I'm going to require a response in each row. So let's look and see what that looks like. Okay. These are just boxes. You don't fill them in, but I'm just giving you an example. Okay. And one response per row, and you notice then the red disappears. The last question here in the checkbox grid, again, it's similar to what we just did with the linear grid, but now it just gives you checkboxes to check off. Okay. So those are all of the different file types. A couple other things that are available to you is you can import questions from another quiz that you might have. You can add a title. The reason a title might be important is you might decide that you want to have the top part jump to a different part of the form based on the question that happens here. So if I say, I'm going to change this over to do multiple choice, and if I say, what level are you? And I say beginner or advanced or teacher. So I make this required. Here's where it can get fun. And that's where you can click on the three dots and you can give a description to it, but you can go to a section based on the answer. So if the person is, they click teacher, let's say, or advanced, they're going to go to a section based on the answer. If you create another section that says submit this form because you don't need to give them any more information because they already know how to do it, you could say have advanced submit the form. And maybe teacher continues to the next section. Or maybe I add yet again another section. And my section could be learn about these. And then I might give some different things, right? So you have to look at how it branches because it can be a little confusing. But after section 1, maybe you want your teacher to continue to the next section, but you want the beginner one to jump to section 3. And section 3 could be called beginner tools. Okay. So now the way this looks, I come in, I enter my date, and I enter my time, and I choose what the best day of the week is, and of course that's Saturday for me. What level are you? And let's say I was going to go ahead and click on the advanced, and I say next, and then it gives me the option to submit. But if I choose beginner and I click next, it takes me to this next section. So it's a really good way to branch out to get the information you're really looking for and to provide your learner with a more customized experience. Okay. So back in our forms, we have a few other options. In our settings, you can make this a quiz. Making this a quiz can only happen here. You can either start with a new quiz when you go to templates, or you have to come here and do it. So you have options. You can lock it to the quiz so they can't go anywhere else but be in that quiz. It's only available on managed Chromebooks, however. So if your school doesn't have managed Chromebooks, my district happens to be 1-to-1, and with Chromebooks, grades 3 through 12. So this is a great feature for us. You can also have it release the grades if you've had all self-grading, but you might do later after you've manually reviewed it, okay? They can see which ones they answered or didn't, and that's up to you. Default question value is 5, but you can make it anything you want. And then you can decide how you want to collect. So there's a lot of data that you can get just automatically, including limiting it to one response, allow them to go back and edit their response. And then you can also show some other things, the progress bar, shuffle the questions if you don't want them, looking at each other's answers. They can review the results summary. You can disable autosave for everyone so that they haven't saved it and then let somebody else log in and grab their answers. That's a good one to turn on. And then the defaults for this form: collect all email addresses by default. Again, it's turned off by default, but you can turn it on. And then the questions default, make questions required by default. So that just saves you one more step. So you notice I had 10 questions, so therefore I now have 10 total points. So let's go look at this. Now it says 5 points just for putting the date and time. 5 points, 5 points. And obviously this is not going to work very well if you're branching out to different sections. That's going to be more of a problem. But now I can view the score, and I didn't go in and put any correct answers in. So this is a common thing that happens, is that you fill out you do the form and it's great, it's all done. And then you come back and you say, uh-oh, I forgot to do something. And that is, in my questions, I would have to give the correct answers in order for it to work. All right. Here are the responses. It'll tell you how many people have responded. This is a quick insight, and it just sort of gives you an overview, and that's great if you just want to look at a quick overview. But if you really want to drill down and do some more involvement, it can go by question. It can go by individual. These are fairly new features, by the way. And then the last one is a link to sheets. So if you wanted to link this into a spreadsheet so you could sort the data or collect a lot of data over the course of time on the same exact quiz or form, you could link it to a sheet with the option of selecting one that exists or creating a new one. And when I create that new one, it gives me the timestamp and all of the questions that I asked, which some of these, of course, don't make sense because I just threw some random things in there. So that is a very fast fly through on how to use Google Forms, how to create quizzes in Google Forms. I do want to remind you, pro tip, if it's something you're going to use a lot, please star it, and then you can find it in the starred menu of your Drive. Over here in the Drive, you click on starred, and there are all the starred items. That's it for Google Forms for today. Thanks for watching.